Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Training Talk right here on Personal Defense Network. I'm Grant Cunningham, and this is the show where we talk about your life, and how to protect it. In the next hour, we're going to explore how you can prepare and equip yourself to face your own worst case scenario and keep you and your family safe from harm. Now, this is a show where we don't do politics or religion. You don't have to worry about any of that. You'll have enough of that around the table here during the holidays. And we don't do conspiracy theories or fringe commentary, nothing like that, just reliable information that you can put to use right away. And I'd really appreciate it if you would share the show with your friends and your coworkers, your family. Talk to them about it. Tell them about Training Talk and all the great information that we put out here twice a month. The first and third Thursday of every month. So please share it. I'd really appreciate it. And I know that they would too. So this is the last show of 2017, and it just happens to fall right in the middle of a whole bunch of holidays. And Hanukkah ended last night. Of course, today is the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. We have Christmas coming up here in just a few days. And of course, there's always Festivus for the rest of us. And just so you know, I showed everybody earlier, right back here is my small, compact, portable Festivus pole. So I'm all ready to go. So welcome to the show tonight. We're going to have some fun tonight. It's going to be a little different. We've got a whole bunch of our guest experts that have been here over the course of this last year, and we're going to have a little roundtable discussion and have a little fun with it as well. Before we get started, before I get them to introduce themselves, I want to remind everybody, of course, if you haven't yet signed up for the Personal Defense Network weekly newsletter, and it's a great way to keep track of everything that's happening here at Personal Defense Network. It tells you when the show's on, tells you about new videos, new articles, all that kind of thing. It's absolutely invaluable because we're constantly putting up new information here at Personal Defense Network at an amazing clip, and it's almost the only way to keep track of everything that's happening. So if you're watching this on the show page, on Personal Defense Network, there's a little link down there where you can subscribe to it. And of course, there are links all over pages, all over on Personal Defense Network to sign up for the weekly newsletter. So be sure to do that. Also, I want to remind everybody about a deal that we've got for you. You're familiar, of course, with the public side here at Personal Defense Network. And that's where, of course, you see the show where you see the PDN live show with Rob Pincus every month, all the great articles and all the great free videos. But we've got a ton of stuff on the membership side of Personal Defense Network. That's for premium members here at PDN. And we've got DVD-length videos and video collections and special deals on online classes that we've got going. And that's all available to premium members. Now, you're probably wondering, well, how do I become a premium member, Grant? Well, I'll tell you. What you do is you sign up. There's, again, little links all over the Personal Defense Network site, and there's a link on the show page to sign up for premium membership. Now, it's usually $39.95 a year, but we can make you a deal because you're watching this show. When you sign up for Personal Defense Network premium membership, as you check out, there will be a little box down there. I don't remember if it says coupon code or discount code or something like that. And if you just put this code in there, GRANT10, G-R-A-N-T, the number 1, the number 0, all one word. Put that in, and you'll get your first year of premium membership at Personal Defense Network for only $10. $10, seriously. I mean, you spend more than that if you go to Starbucks these days. So $10, get your first full year of premium membership, access to everything. That's not restricted membership, nothing like that. It's full premium membership for only $10 for your first year. That'd make a heck of a stocking stuffer. I mean, you could put a little note in there that said, "Dear honey, I got you premium membership at Personal Defense Network, so you can learn all about great self-defense information for the next year. Love, Pookie." And you put that in an envelope, put it in their stocking, and they will love you for it. Trust me on this. Although you might not want to call them Pookie if you don't usually call them Pookie. Just, that's technical point there. But $10 for your first year of membership, a premium membership here at Personal Defense Network for only $10. Remember that code, Grant10, Grant, the number 1, the number 0, all one word. Put that in at checkout, and you'll get it for $10. All right. So tonight, as I said, we have a bunch of guests, and I know that there's at least 2 more that'll be checking in sometime during the show. And these are all people that have been on Training Talk this year we had some great conversations, and we'll hope to have some great conversation tonight along with a little bit of fun. So I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves, starting with Aaron Israel, and just go on down the line.
Hey everybody, Aaron Israel. Fundamental Defense is my company. You can find me on the web at fundamentaldefense.com, and I teach in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Cool. Thanks for being here. Barrett.
Thanks for having me.
You just call me?
Yep.
Cool. Barrett Kendrick. My company's Bearco Training, mainly teaching out of the New Orleans area. Facebooks and all that kind of cool stuff.
And Aaron, number 2.
My name is Aaron Craig, and I am not a firearms instructor. I'm just a Joe Q Public. And I guess you can find me on Twitter at Aaron Craig, AARONKREAG.
And don't let him fool you, folks. He's a very, very knowledgeable every person. Andy, you have 2 people to do.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andy Leffler. My wife, Julie, and I, who joining us here shortly, run Mid-Ohio IMB out of the Central Ohio, Columbus, Ohio area, where we're able to teach unarmed and armed self-defense in a variety of different. You can see us at www.midohioimb.com.
Cool. And you're wearing an awfully festive hat.
Well, somebody's got to do it.
So there you go. Clint.
Yes, sir. My name is Clint Macro. I'm with the Trigger Pressers Union, and my website is www.triggerpressersunion.com. And you can reach me by email at Clint, Klint, at triggerpressersunion.com. And I do most of my training out of the Pittsburgh area.
Cool. Thanks for being here tonight. Michael.
Thanks for having me.
Michael, you there? Yeah.
Michael Lowe, High Plains Tactical and Consulting, www.hptac.com. Primarily teach out of the Northern Colorado Front Range, as well as various locations around the country during the PDN tour.
Cool. And we will no doubt, hopefully, be talking a little bit about the PDN tour later on the show. And last but not least, Joshua.
Hey, I'm Josh Gideon. I am in the Indiana area. I do mainly risk and compliance consulting for people, companies, businesses, churches, that kind of thing. You can find me on my website at joshuagideon.com.
Cool. Thanks for being here. And let's get started. And the way this is going to work tonight, we have some questions to ask of everybody. And I guess I don't know. I feel the need for, some showmanship with this. So I will start by saying, I hold in my hand the envelopes. A child of 5 can see that they have been hermetically sealed. They've been stored in a mayonnaise jar on Funko Wagnall's porch since noon today. No one knows the questions in these envelopes, but you, in your divine and borderline mystical way, will ascertain the answers, having never before seen the questions. All right. I'm glad somebody recognized that. They're not really in the envelopes. I've actually got them up on the screen here. But okay. All right. So let's get started here. As I said, basically what I did tonight is I asked everybody to submit a question that they wanted everybody else to answer. And I think I called it something like questions you want that you'd rather someone else answer, I think is how I put it. And so everybody sent in some questions, and so we've got some interesting things down here. And we'll start with this one. And we'll start with Aaron Israel. I'm just going to go down like the list as they appear on my screen because that's just the easiest. So Aaron Israel, I got a question for you.
Okay.
If firearms were off the table, you didn't get to have a firearm, what would be your primary method of self-defense?
Well, I have pretty awesome bow staff skills, so I'd have to say the bow staff, definitely.
I thought you were going to say nunchucks there for a minute. Okay. But other than that?
Probably just empty hand stuff because I've got some experience with, jiu-jitsu and ground fighting stuff that I learned in the military and kind of try to keep a handle on. So I'd probably be better off with that than most other weapons.
Do you get a chance to actually practice that on a regular basis and keep your skills up?
Not in the past couple of years. It's one of the things on my list for 2018 to get back into. But if as far as confidence goes, I'd have more confidence in that than picking up, some kind of other object.
Okay, cool. Who else wants to answer that? If firearms are off the table, what is your go-to method for self-defense?
A whistle.
A whistle.
I was kind of thinking a kukri knife.
What's that?
A kukri knife.
A kukri knife?
Right?
Yeah. Nepalese machete.
Boy, you've got bigger pockets than I do. I've got one and they're like, that big. Funny, you do not look Nepalese. I just want you to know.
And that's the point, right? Who's
right.
expecting?
Right. Anybody else have anything that they would do or think about if firearms are off the table?
Well, if I have to disarm, I'll usually put a canister of Saber Red in my pocket.
Right.
Okay.
Do what I'll carry around if I can't take my firearm.
Okay. Anything else?
Assuming, an environment where you're talking that I can't carry a knife because usually a knife is going to be a self-defense tool that I have on me or utility. But if I don't have something, then typically I have something that is more improvised, which, may be just a hard pen in my pocket or my flashlight or whatever else.
Pincus is over here doing pantomime to the answer. That was, hey, Rob. All right. I'm surprised
because I didn't know what Baby Pincus was going to try to chime in on. So I was trying to help visual aids.
Oh, okay. I'm surprised. Of course, Julie isn't here. I'm surprised nobody talked about a flashlight as a sort of a primary self-defense aid. Using it to not just to of course spot potential problems, but perhaps distracting them and perhaps even using it as an impact weapon. That's my go-to, particularly when I'm flying. Mm-hmm. I get on a plane and flashlights go right through TSA. Mm-hmm. And so on the other side of security, I got my flashlight and I'm set to go. So that's really my go-to when I can't have a gun, because just about all the other times I can have a gun. So cool. All right. So let's go to the next question. Let's see if I find something interesting here. By the way, that question was submitted by Julie Leffler. So we've got hers. Let's do this. What is, and this is, we have two that are kind of related, but what is the one thing you've done as a gun owner you wish you could take back? So Barrett, what is the one thing you've done as a gun owner you wish you could take back?
Oh, spent a few years carrying a custom Kimber TLE.
You did, yes. Oh, ow, man, that's embarrassing. I don't know if I admit that.
It is.
Oh boy, that is. For a minute there, I thought you were going to say 10. You carried a 10 millimeter. I don't know why, but I just thought you were going to say that.
No 10 millimeter, but 45, and then I went to 40 after that.
Okay, all right. So you still hadn't learned your lesson.
It took a few years.
All right. So anyone else? Is there one thing you've done as a gun owner you wish you could take back?
I voted for John Kerry in 2004. And as a gun owner, I wish I could take that back. Luckily, there was no consequence to
it. That's okay. I voted for Gary Johnson this last time. There was no consequence to that either. Anyone else? Anything you'd like to take back as a gun owner that you did?
I once owned a 5.11 vest.
Ooh.
The khaki one? Was it khaki?
Khaki.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I once borrowed Marty Hayes's 5.11 vest to meet some weird requirement in a competition once. And
I see you thinking. You know what's really funny is that when I got into this into the concealed carry world in the very early 90s, of course, everybody, the typical response to how to carry a concealed handgun was to get a photographer's vest. And what was interesting is that not only did I spend some time as a commercial photographer, but I also ran a chain of camera stores at one point. And I can tell you, we had photographers' vests in stock, but no photographers ever bought them. So I don't know what people were thinking, but that was just crazy. All right. Anyone else want to crack at this before we?
I missed the intro. Are we doing real things or are we just being entertaining?
No, real things. You can start with something funny if you want.
No, I got two, because one, I think I've talked about it before, maybe not on Training Talk, but I know I've talked about it on some of the PDN lives. Like, I actually launched a laser training module through into a wall in the basement, like almost 20 years ago now, because I thought it was really a good idea to make sure my gun weighed the same amount when I was practicing.
No.
From the holster.
You did.
Oh.
Then, yeah, somewhere around, like, I don't know, 900 reps, because, 1,000 dry reps for every one live rep, right? That's a thing in the 90s. I decided to rock around without letting the magazine fall out far enough, and the whole thing got launched. So it was a silver tip 45 and a laser module embedded in the wall. That was,
and it was a 45 too.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's something that dumb you may as well be doing, because it wouldn't matter, because 9mm bullets are so inconsequentially light that it wouldn't change the weight of the gun. Only if you carry a 45 do you need a loaded magazine when you're drawing.
Okay.
That was a back. The whole thing, that laser module, the 45, the dry fire, all of it. Just take it all back.
That beats anything I could do. Oh, okay. The things we learn on this show, folks. All right. Well, anybody else want one last crack at that before we?
Okay.
All right.
I'll throw myself under the bus. You ready?
Go ahead.
When I was still in the Army, I went out and bought a Glock in the mid-90s. Showed up at the range and decided to, having never shot a pistol before, thought I'd have to crouch my arms in like I was holding a rifle. And yeah, I did that.
Okay.
So about three the guys that actually knew what they were doing on the range jumped on me like I was a complete idiot.
According to the photos I've seen on social media of the Army's new SIG release, there are guys who still think that same way.
I have seen that
True
picture.
statement.
So
I have seen that picture.
we ahead of the curve on center axis relock.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I know center axis relock is good because I saw a guy on YouTube doing it with airsoft, and it worked really, really well. And I'm not kidding either. I wish I were. All right. Let's see here. Let's go. Let's see here. Aaron, number 2. We'll start with you this time. Let's see. There's a lot of good. Well, we'll do this. Let's see. What are the advantages and disadvantages of the popular single stack concealed carry firearms?
Pass.
White elephant. You can steal someone else's question.
Pass.
All right. So for everybody else, somebody is looking at a single stack firearm. Is there anything inherent to the single stack firearm that is either an advantage or a disadvantage? By the way, this one comes from Josh Gideon. So blame him.
Very concealable compared to their double stack options, so it's easier to conceal in most types of dress, especially if you usually wear t-shirts and shorts, that sort of thing. Also, on the disadvantage side, I'd say that there's more felt recoil, and obviously you can carry fewer rounds. So those would be the only disadvantages that really come to mind.
Okay. Anybody else got anything different than that to offer? Up. And I was going to have a prop here, but I don't have my prop. Darn it.
What happens more often with the single stack guns is people even with normal size hands will ride that slide stop and not get reliable slide lock. Anybody with a high thumbs grip. So that's something that comes up more with the single stacks than with the.
Really? Okay. The one thing that I've noticed with the single stack firearms, and I agree with the advantages that everybody talks about, and I love the thinness of the single stack guns. There is a small percentage of people out there who will run into this problem, and I'm going to use a phone as an example, where they grip it, and you'll notice that there's a gap between my palm and the surface of the phone, and no matter what I do, I cannot get contact there. This is unique. I have this problem, and other people with small hands and relatively short fingers will sometimes have this issue with the single stack guns. I have a great deal problem with the like the Springfield XDs, the single stack ones, the Glock 42, Glock 43, and it's largely because no matter what I do, I've got no contact here, and the gun just kind of goes like this. The harder I grip it, the more it kind of goes like that. That's the only disadvantage I've seen. Yeah, felt recoil might be a little more, but this is like maybe 10% of people, maybe. But I have seen it in some students occasionally. But other than that, like I said, I can't really think of any disadvantages. Does anyone consider the lower capacity a disadvantage? No one?
No. It is. It's objectively you're less prepared, but I don't think it's a mitigating factor for most people. I think shootability is the biggest potential negative because it's just a harder gun to control, whether it's the size of the grip or the felt recoil. Longer times on your follow-up shots. So I think shootability is the #1 negative, and capacity would be, far outweighed by the potential benefits. If you were talking about it, that whole thing, like better to have that gun than not have any gun, because territory is so enhanced with the single stacks, particularly ones with chopped grips that you never saw before until like.
Ooh. Nice. Now, for those of you, and especially Rob, since he's got more experience with these things than I do, I have not shot any single stack guns that were also not, very short barrels, like the 4-inch XDS. Is that significantly more shootable than little ones?
Huge difference. In fact, Latham and I were just talking about this when we did Last Worlds Collide. We were together 10 days ago. It's the most overlooked aspect, and I'm shocked that Springfield doesn't sell more 4 inches. Apparently, it's like 20% of the 3.3. The total XDSs, that only 20% of them are the 4-inch. Glock doesn't even offer it. The 43 is a short barrel. The Shield's a short barrel. The FNSC is one that is that kind of a configuration where it's got a short grip and a 4-inch length, a longer barrel. That Glock 26L deal that you and I started creating together, Grant, and then Business End Customs made actually viable and pretty. I just don't know why that configuration isn't more popular. My carry gun is that configuration. It's the XDS 4-inch. Right? That extra inch of slide and barrel for me is really much more about the weight out in front of my hand to help manage recoil, make this gun faster on follow-up shots. The sight radius is probably number 2 for me. A lot of guys would consider the longer sight radius number 1, and I don't know that anybody's seriously is talking about the extra power of an extra inch of barrel, or 0.7 inches in the case of the XDS. But going from a 3-inch barrel to a 4-inch barrel for me is all about faster follow-up shots. And I do think it makes a big difference. I see it make a big difference when I switch somebody from a 3.3 to a 4, or from a Glock 43 to the 4-inch.
And that was going to be my question, because the single stack guns may be a little more difficult, but it's to control. But it's I really think it may be that configuration that's so important. I know that even in a double stack gun, going from a short barrel to a slightly longer barrel makes a huge difference in controllability. So that's not necessarily the worst aspect of a single stack, I guess is what I'm getting at. Okay, cool. All right, let's see what we've got here. Andy. Julie isn't there yet, but we'll give you one.
All right.
Hey, Andy. Let's see here. This one comes from Rob Pincus, and he says 10 millimeter. It's gotten popular again for some reason. We don't know why, but for some reason it's like the hot rage right now. Is anyone actually going to show up to a class with one next year?
There's a good possibility that to a gun store and end up, with a 10 millimeter, not knowing what it is that they're getting into with it. I've always, one of the reasons that it fell off the way it was, because remember, things that were popular once get popular again. Last time that the 10 millimeter was on top of the world, what really did it in? How much a box of ammo cost. That's what really the big complaint was at the store behind the big objection, necessarily the recoil or any of the things that we where it's a little too much for a lot of people to handle. The real objection to it was the price of the ammo. So I think, yes, we're seeing this uptick in popularity in it, and it's a good possibility one or two might turn. I don't really think you're going to see it. You're going to see it go back to its former popularity. I think it's still very 357 SIG-like in its price point difficulty. So, anticipate seeing a lot too showing up, but not a lot.
Anybody else got a feeling about that? Anybody expect to see 10 millimeters showing up in class?
Not in any sort of norm. I mean, I think that you'll have the one guy that shows up with it, but he'll be the one guy of the year.
Yeah, hopefully. Anybody got an explanation of why the sudden, besides the price drop that Andy talked about, why all of a sudden, is Springfield coming out with new 10 millimeters and people are talking about 10 millimeters all of a sudden again? Why? Anybody got a reason?
Start buying ARs.
Everybody's got an AR now.
All that and 10 millimeters, old school compared to the new shooters out there in the range. So we have a whole new generation of shooters coming out there who don't really know about the history of 10 millimeter. They didn't see the rise and fall of it. So for a lot of people, it's this whole new, oh, cool, neat. Didn't know about this. I think that's part of it as well.
Does this mean that 41 Magnum is going to come back? Anybody want to tackle that?
I think there's something to that. I think it is kind of, there's a whole generation of people that haven't been around or weren't around when it was cool last time. I think it's a slow market that gun companies need some kind of novelty to get people paying attention. And that's an easy one because you're building it on a 45 frame that already exists and using 40 caliber barrels that already exist. You're just changing the chambers. I think that there is a lot of, it's easy to have something new and flashy. I think that's probably, that as much as anything else is probably a big deal, is that it was a slow year. If it'd been a busy year, nobody'd be buying 10 millimeter handguns, much less 10 millimeter 1911s. They'd be buying more ARs. They'd be buying more Glocks. If there was something super cool that came out. I mean, even with the improvement like the M&P 2.0, I think is probably a significant improvement. If you're into M&Ps or if you were on the fence on an M&P, that's probably a reason to get one. Certainly before you go get a 10 millimeter, 1911. But it's, I don't know. I don't know how many are really selling. I know that there's a whole bunch of them that came out. I don't know how much are really selling. And I think to whoever said it, you, Mike, that said the idea that somebody's going to buy one and then end up in a class, because a year from now, there's going to be a whole bunch of 10 millimeter guns that got shipped that never got sold over the retail counter that are going to be sitting there when the gun market's back to normal. And those prices are going to be probably pretty low. And somebody's going to buy one on a whim. But I asked the question just because I don't think I don't know that I've ever had anybody show up with a 10 millimeter in a class, like ever, even going back to the 90s. I actually qualified at a sheriff's office once with a Glock 20. I was in the 10 millimeter in the 90s, but I don't remember anybody ever actually showing up to a class with one.
The only one I can ever remember even I saw in a class that I did not teach. A guy who had one of the Smith & Wesson, I don't remember what model, that 10 millimeter that they had.
What do you mean the big one, the 1006?
Yeah, the 1006, that one. Yeah, the big honking thing. I saw one of those, and it was in the hands, I think, of a sheriff's deputy. But that's the only one I think I've ever actually seen outside of somebody just plinking.
One of those for like 3 episodes before he had a Bren or after he had a Bren.
Oh, really? Okay. I never watched that show. Yeah.
You're watching it. Bren. Listening in.
Okay. So we bashed the 10 millimeter to death by now. All right. Okay. So let's see. Clint.
Yes, sir.
Yes. I don't know if everybody noticed, but Clint's got a decorated AR in the background there. He's got an AR with reindeer ears on it there, which I think is pretty awesome. That's a good substitute for a tree. and at the price of ARs, it's probably cheaper than a tree right now.
Well, it depends on, if you get the shiny tree with the lights embedded in it already or not. It might be cheaper than getting a real tree. That's for sure.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's see here. So, we're seeing right now a lot of firearm companies struggling, so we may also see some training struggling. Is the era of the firearms instructor over or on a decline that mirrors the decline in what we're seeing in the gun industry?
I don't believe so. I think it's cyclical, and it always follows the politics of what's going on. And after the last election, a lot of people just kind of backed off from their training and buying guns and buying ammo. I mean, I know before the election, I bought a whole bunch of ammo and I got a whole bunch of primers and set up a couple different presses, and I was all set to have to forage through a different administration. And now I see this a lot because I'm very active with trying to press for gun rights and political activism here in Pennsylvania. And a lot of the people that were really pushing and helping are just kind of like, we got nothing to worry about now. So I think you'll see a lot of that. But you know, the type of people I'm getting in classes are women and elderly women. And so I'm not seeing a drop in their numbers. What I'm seeing a drop in are the 30, 40-year-old white guys. That's what I'm seeing a drop in. And I'm slowly seeing more and more millennials coming into classes too. So I would say I've seen a little bit of a slump, but I think it's cyclical. It'll come back around.
Okay. Anybody else got a comment on that? Are we going to see a decline in firearms instructors that mirrors the rest of the market?
Sorry, I was day trading cryptocurrency. What did you say? I think that training is far more robust than really any other sector of the industry. I think it tends to follow the trends in concealed carry programs. If I were going to put any trend on it, it's the growth of concealed carry. So if you look at the way that the training industry has exploded, the number of classes have exploded, the number of students have exploded, and I'm not just talking about concealed carry permit classes, which are a given, right? Whether required, people are going to take a permit. I think the rest of the industry, that second tier and above of training, has grown along with the concealed carry movement since the mid-90s. And unless that changes, unless we start seeing restrictions on concealed carry, I think we're still going to see a very robust private sector training industry. You know, the cyclical parts, the government military training contracts, law enforcement training contracts that come out to the private sector for the people that are doing that, those of us who do that tends to be very cyclical with budgets and different administrations supporting law enforcement or international activity as far as the military stuff goes. But on the private sector, I think we're good to go. I do think that there are people who do it as a hobby or try to get into it as a business that will continue to, show up and fade away, that really aren't good educators and aren't good trainers and maybe had some marketing opportunities or something. But as far as the actual people looking for classes, I think that's out there.
For those, on the panel who also teach the concealed carry license classes, are any of you seeing a general trend of decrease or increase in the popularity of those classes over the last, say, 2-3 years?
It got such a big decrease in Texas that I didn't renew my license to teach the state mandated class anymore because there's too many instructors in the DFW Metroplex and they're all fighting for the same, 100 students a month. It's just it wasn't worth it. A guy, Carl Rain, did a really good presentation on the decrease as part of the stuff that he did at the tactical conference for Tom Givens that he put on the internet. And it's been really bad in Texas. And I can imagine that all the other states that have a training mandate have seen something similar. Since the election, it's just kind of faded away. So.
Interesting. Anybody else seeing that happening?
Yeah, well, I concur with what Aaron was saying. While I do not teach CCW specific classes, for years there was a trend of folks taking my classes because they would qualify and certify for a CCW in the state of Colorado. Last couple of years, though, I found less and less folks that are actually taking the class for that means to an end. They're just taking the class. They want to be educated. They want to get more knowledge, more training, not because they're seeking out a CCW.
Okay. Interesting. All right. I'm wondering if the CCW classes sort of serve as a leading indicator of that second tier that Rob was talking about. If we see a sustained drop in people getting their concealed carry licenses, if that portends a drop in that second tier, maybe 2, 3, 4 years later. So it might be something to keep an eye on. Your mouth is moving, but we can't hear you, Rob.
That's in your head. Everybody else can hear me. Indicator really is the test cases are all the constitutional carry states. When Arizona went constitutional carry, everybody said, "Oh, the training industry is going to die in Arizona." Well, it hasn't, right? There were plenty of students coming to my classes who knew they didn't need a permit, knew they didn't need training, but they were coming to get it anyway. And in fact, I think in a lot of ways, I've talked about this, over the years, this mandatory moronic level training, NRA basic pistol, certifying you to carry a gun, under your sweatshirt in the mall doesn't make any sense, right? But a lot of people get that NRA basic pistol cert or the Texas. And thank you for pointing out, Aaron, that Texas is such a non-free place that you have to be licensed specifically to teach the specific course that they have mandated. But I'll point that out. They're new to concealed carry. I mean, they've only had it for 20-something years. Not like New Jersey, it's had it for forever.
Oh, no, you had to go there.
Okay.
That's the Texas.
I'm going to be in Texas in like 4 days. I guess I should be nice to you people. But anyway, I was told this was going to be a fun show. I was saying something about constitutional carry states and still training, like Kansas. You know, they went constitutional carry this year, but we've still got classes filled there. So I think that's an indicator when you don't have that really silly throwaway class, and then they give you a permit and say, well, now you're certified, you're good. I think that allows a lot of people to rationalize not taking actually, practical, important, oriented training. So when you take that away, I think you get a lot of, people who are wanting to be in control of certain aspects of their lives, wanting to do the right thing, wanting to be able to protect themselves and the people they care about, go to the gun shop, they buy the gun, and then they're like, really, I can carry it? And they're almost like, in some cases, I think, really flabbergasted by that. When the reality hits that here's the gun, here's the bullets, a holster would be a good idea, and good luck. Constitution, yay. And then the reality of that sets in, and they're like, oh, so classes, maybe? Is there who's doing that? Where is that at? Where do I go to find that? They actually seek it out. And that's what I want to see more of. I want to see more constitutional carry. National reciprocity, I've talked about it a lot, has a lot of issues. National right to carry, yeah, national constitutional carry, I'm in. I think that will drive people to more training when you take away the, check the box, feel good measure of the NRA basic pistol course.
I think that's that you make a valid point, because I have noticed that some of my best attended classes are in Arizona, where they're constitutional carry state. So that's interesting. Michael, I've got a question for you. Self-defense instructor, coach, trainer, teacher, educator. How would you label yourself, and how do you think people in this business should be labeled?
Pass. Wow, that was a really deep, in-depth question there, Grant.
It wasn't my question yet. That was courtesy of Mr. Joshua Gideon.
Can you restate the question one more time?
Yeah. Self-defense instructor, coach, trainer, or teacher. How do you prefer to be labeled, and how do you think, in general, we should label ourselves?
Kind of all the above. I mean, I see so many folks out there put labels on themselves as I'm this, I'm that, I'm whatever. I'm passionate about what I do. I enjoy what I do. I like helping people. You could put that on emphasis of as a teacher, also as an instructor, because I'm actually teaching information that I do know, I do own. I'm passing the information on to someone else. I think a big problem we have in this industry, though, is we have folks who are they put themselves on this pedestal of, hey, I'm here, you're there, and yeah, kind of a weird deal. Yeah, I mean, I think that, we're not better than our students. We just have information that we're trying to convey. And I think as an instructor, you need to be able to actually convey the information in a way that your student can actually comprehend it, understand it, but also understand where the information is coming from, in a set that, I'm not sitting here from a point of authority. I'm not sitting here at a point of hierarchy. I'm here to convey the information to you because I generally care about the information I'm giving, and I'm here to help you succeed. So, I don't know, sort of something like that.
Okay. Anybody else have any input on this? Do we sometimes use those titles as weapons, or is there something you prefer to call yourself, or you would prefer that we generally be labeled? Anyone want to weigh in on that?
I prefer that we aspire to be educators
Mhm.
and not the other things. The other things can help maybe, but I think educators is what we need, and that's what our role should be. Coaching is nice, and demonstrating is okay, and instructing is in some venues appropriate, and at some moments certainly what's needed. But ultimately, if you're not an educator, like just get out of the way and work under an educator. Yeah?
Okay.
That's exactly what I meant.
All right. Okay. Thank you. So let's go to Josh. Josh, you have not said much tonight. And
there's so many good speakers here. It's lots of good knowledge here.
So I'll give you this one. Is there a downside to every shooting instructor now advocating for medical gear and training? Is there a downside to that?
No.
Care to expand on that there, Josh?
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I think it's a good trend. I believe that we went way too long in this industry without really emphasizing that. I don't see any downsides with that.
Anybody else see a downside to that at all?
I would say if there's a downside, it's that there's not that many really good medical trainers in the industry. I mean, there are very few. I know of two off the top of my head that I can think of that I would recommend without hesitation, because I know that they're putting out good info. But a lot of people, if you tell them get medical training and get this kit, if you don't tell them where to look specifically, then they might end up going to just your regular Red Cross certified first aid guy and, get CPR and how to put on a Band-Aid and not much else. So you got to be real specific on where you send them, or you might be setting them up for failure if they carry that kit that they don't know how to use.
And don't forget, the Red Cross is very big on calling 911.
Yes.
They're very big on that.
Very big.
I don't, I'm trying hard to imagine any sort of a downside, and I'm having trouble really coming up with it, other than it's, as you said, it's sometimes hard to find somebody just to recommend. I know, maybe 4 or 5 people that I could recommend, and unfortunately none of them are in my local area. I don't know anybody in this area who's really qualified to teach it. I know that there are some people who would be qualified to teach it if they would actually, step up to the plate and do it. But that's the hard part. I tell people around here, get medical training. Well, where do I go? Okay. And that I think is probably the downside.
You have to consider too that a lot of people, they bite off so much, and they try to get training for the end of the world and putting sutures in and stuff like that. And unless there's complete chaos in the world, we've got an ambulance 15, 20 minutes away, maybe, unless you're out in the middle of the woods, or, if you live in a real rural area. So even just getting the training on a tourniquet and an Israeli bandage, which you can get that training and get pretty good with it reasonably quick. Even if you don't have that skilled of an instructor, you can get the nuts and bolts to be able to deploy those tools. So I think it's important that we specify what type of training they should get, and make sure that they only carry the gear that they know how to use.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right.
I mean, I'm assuming, is Caleb one of the guys you would recommend there, Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Especially since I'm in Texas.
He's like 12 minutes from your house. But
he is.
His baby is getting ready to have a baby like any minute.
He is.
Yeah.
And he's learning new medical skills.
Distracted, but he's going to watch. He's going to turn around. He's going to be like, okay, I have a rat's tourniquet in the diaper bag. I get it. I get it. Okay, you're right. Those limbs are really small. But other than that, Caleb has the 6-8 hours online course through PDN, and that's usually where I send people. So I just say, okay, look, I get it. Online, online's not hands-on. Hands-on is better, but exactly what everybody's talked about, or several of you talked about, this idea that it's hard to find it. It's hard to get that training, especially there aren't that many traveling guys, right? Caleb travels, travels with Dark Angel. He's part of the Shooter Summit thing that that I'm part of this week that's airing all the free sessions. Mine actually goes live tomorrow. I think his goes live. I think they're both on the same day, actually. So I don't know what he's putting out, but as far as what he's teaching online, but we got to give people something. If we're going to all be, and I think here's the problem. It's become really trendy, right? Like if you're not talking about having a medical kit on the range, like years ago, we were, it was 2012, I think, Mike, when you were up with us in Leadville, and we were talking about, you have to have these things on the range, and nobody was really doing that. You had medical kit or give a medical briefing, and that was usually more about like coordinates and helicopter call signs, clearing a landing zone and craziness that's going to work itself out anyway. It wasn't about you must have these things and someone on the range must know how to use them. All the students need to know where it is. That just wasn't being done regularly. Now, you're not cool if you don't have an IFAC on your belt and you're not talking about it all the time. I think the problem is there isn't a lot of follow-up on where is that training supposed to come in. And or you get the guy who now wants to teach a 45-minute medical class at the beginning of his shooting class. Just like I don't want the medical guys teaching live fire classes, I don't want live fire guys taking an hour to talk about medical stuff. Like we need more of that in the community. And when we can get guys like 18 Zulu, right? Mike McElmeal. I always pronounce his name wrong. He did a great little seminar for us at the CFS conference, but he doesn't get a chance to travel much because he's a paramedic. He's a part-time cop. He's teaching. He's working with Cedar Valley. He just doesn't get to travel much. But there are a lot of guys like that. As I travel around, I see that there's a lot of local guys who aren't big national names, but they're qualified instructors. And I think we as firearms instructors need to go find those guys and kick them and push them and get them doing more. BJ Hall is a guy that also has done some stuff for us at CFS conferences, who is in St. Augustine, and I'm constantly trying to get him to go out and do more because there are qualified people out there.
And we welcome Julie Leffler. Hey, Julie.
Hi, how are you guys?
You made it. I'm glad you did.
We, you know what? I am still at the town hall, and I just finished the deliberation, and I thought I'd check in just to see if you were still around.
Oh,
Hey.
that's right. You're an elected official now, aren't you?
Well, only until May.
Only until May.
I'm not going to run again.
Had enough, have you?
Other things are taking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Julie, since you're here, we'll let you answer this question.
Okay.
So what class do you tell your student to take next? After any class that you've taught, whether it's firearms or martial arts, what class do you tell your students to take next and why?
The one that interests them is the next class they should take. Because unless we have had a lengthy conversation about their own personal defense plan, I don't know what it is. If I don't know their family situation, if I don't know where they are, in their journey on learning things, it's not up to me. I can recommend, but like I said, I want to know what interests them, because if it interests them, then they're going to continue to be educated.
So I think that's, I would say for a lot of people, yeah, that's true. Anyone else have an answer to that? What class do you tell your students to take next and why?
Magpul aerial gunnery. Makes sense.
Okay. If they can afford a helicopter, wonderful. So, anybody else got anything to it?
Not the class you just took. So if you just took a rifle class and you're asking me who else is a good rifle instructor, unless your subtext is this class sucked, I learned nothing, I need something else, right? Like if you got something out of the rifle class you just took, why would you want to go take another rifle class unless you're a rifle hobbyist? And if you're a rifle hobbyist, have at it. But if you're really interested in personal defense, there must be something better. If you just took a knife class, there must be something better than another knife class. I send people to try to get them to go to that medical class, right? If you just took a pistol class, asking me who's another good pistol instructor is kind of insulting. And then when I explain it,
what happened?
They say, oh, that's not what I meant. I say, okay, I know that's not what you meant, but that's what you're saying. Like you just took what I think was a great pistol class. Diversify yourself, expand, go learn other things. I think that's along the lines of what Julie's saying. We may not be able to say exactly what to take, but I can probably tell them what not to take.
Good point.
I like that. I like that answer, actually. Telling them what not to take is probably a lot easier than telling them what to take. in most cases, certainly. It's not all. Anybody else got anything profound to say about that before we move on? All right. So thank you, Julie. So it's now Rob's turn. And Rob, interestingly enough, this one, I did not write this. This one comes from Aaron Craig. And it's perfect. This is perfect. Yeah, we can't hear you. Unmute yourself.
I'm not talking yet.
Okay. All right, fine.
But I mean, to be fair, I have taken a turn every turn.
Yeah. Well, this one you get to start. Then this is perfect for you. Do you have any regrets as it relates to training or teaching? Something you wish you did or said, or something you wish you didn't do or say?
I mean, I want everybody should do this. Everybody's got something, so we'll go all the way around. And I think there's, big picture stuff, right? Like safety rules. I taught safety rules like everybody else did 20 years ago, right? So if I could have not done that and evolved teaching safety as a concept, that would have been awesome to me, right? And then there's moments where you say something like, I don't know, you missee something on a target, right? Something happens on the range and you are watching, you think the guy's shooting at the 4, the circle with a 4 in it, but he's actually shooting at the circle with the 2 in it for some odd reason. And he shoots and you don't see a hit go in there, and your subconscious, like all of our subconsciouses do, will maybe fill in the reason why that person missed. So this is the kind of thing that happened, somebody who's been snapping the trigger and driving the gun low left, snapping the trigger, driving the gun low left, right-handed shooter. I'm looking at the 4, he's shooting at the 2, I'm looking at the 4, he doesn't hit the 4, and I say, dude, you got to stop staging the trigger, you got to stop shanking that gun, because I told him already. Turns out he drilled the 2 right through the middle, right? those happen. Those things do happen from time to time, and I think those are avoidable. If you're doing one-on-one training, I think sometimes when there's a lot of moving parts and when you're using cognitive type drills where everybody may not be shooting at the same number because you don't know how many vehicles you use, right? That kind of a thing. There are mistakes that are made in the moment that all you can do is say, oh, my bad, sorry, but seriously, stop shanking the gun anyway. And you got lucky, good job, and you walk away. So there are those things. I worry much more about the bigger picture ones, because those little tiny things, all instructors are going to do those little things. You're going to get something wrong. And hopefully you can just admit, oh, I thought I saw that, my bad, it was wrong, and move on. Even if you make a joke about it, at least acknowledge, okay, let's something else. But their big picture program stuff, the curriculum stuff, AR. I mean, I used to teach AR, probably about like they taught it, in the military in 1995, right? Like that was it, and that's how I would teach defensive rifle shooting until I really started thinking about the contextual use of the AR platform and defensive long guns in general. The same way I think about them with pistols, which I've been thinking about for 10, 15 years. Before that, I was teaching it all wrong, because I didn't know any better and I didn't really challenge or question. I think that's one thing that I try to encourage all instructors to do is be really fast and constant, consistent on challenging your assumptions, challenging your material, and not just dismissing what somebody's doing over there until you try to understand it. Why are you doing that? Well, it's what I do. Okay, now I'm going to dismiss it. Or I'm probably not. I'm going to dismiss that guy and then actually go home and try to figure out why he's doing it, or ask other people, why he's doing that. But I think that understanding and that questioning and that evolution, hopefully we all have that. So I'd love to hear everybody's kind of.
Okay, so for that, everybody else, do you have any regrets as it relates to training or teaching? Something you wish you did or said, or something you wish you didn't do or say? Anybody else? Come on. Aaron Israel.
All right. I guess I'll go first. When I started teaching, I would focus a lot more on getting people through X amount of drills and trying to hit all the high points of the curriculum than I did on fixing the individual shooter. So I'd cover a lot of ground, but I wouldn't, like, somebody might be moving on to the next drill when they haven't figured out what they were doing wrong on the drill before, and they carry that on the rest of the day, and I didn't really help them. So now my classes go a lot slower, and I focus more on the individuals, and we might not cover as much material as I'd like to in a day, but I feel like the shooters benefit more from it because they get that individual attention instead of just me trying to, you know, hit a bullet point of things that I think I have to hit in a certain day. I let them drive the pace of the class now.
Cool. Barrett, anything for you? Barrett, are you there, Barrett?
I hear Aaron. I don't hear well.
Oh.
No, I think that going back several years, I don't think I gave students enough credit. Being that I tried to take them through little baby stages because I didn't believe that they were capable of getting right into defensive shooting, really. Back, you know, I think that there's probably a lot of time wasted in that, you know, if I get right into what I want them to do and the way that I want them to do it, I think that we're, you know, being a lot more efficient as an instructor, but in the end, I'm not wasting their time.
Okay, cool. Aaron, too, anything for you? No? Okay. I know you really don't teach, so that's fair. Julie.
Yes.
How about you?
Well, I'd say one of my biggest regrets is not being, and this might come as a shock to you, but not being as confident as an instructor. And I think that comes with growth. And I've had the opportunity to have that growth over the years, but really growing as an instructor, you look at, you should critique yourself as others should critique you, but you have the opportunity to look back at what you've taught and see as your confidence grows, your teaching, how you teach changes. And I think it's changed in a better way. I think I'm able to be more concise and read people better. And once you read people better, whether it's armed or unarmed, I think a lot of times here I'm talking about the unarmed defense classes, being able to read people better and being able to get them to the point where you need them to be so that you can move on. Because once again, it's all about the student. It's not about your curriculum or where you're supposed to be at 10:50 before you take your bathroom break. And now I'm really okay with that. Slowing it down, being a more confident teacher in teaching them what they need to know as opposed to what's on my curriculum.
It's funny you should mention that because I know people who actually structure their class to the point that they know if they're 3 minutes behind.
Well,
I actually know
shame on
people.
them.
Andy, surely you have regrets with a hat like that.
Well, I regret that you're not wearing one, but I regret that you haven't sent me a pair of those sporting rainbow shoelaces yet. I feel a little left out with that. But as far as the instructing thing goes, and as you know, I came from, I did the bulk of my working for, an indoor range, and we would bring in large numbers of students, and we went at a pretty good pace. I got a lot of teaching done in a relatively compact period of time. And now that I'm not doing that anymore, and I'm working, directly with Julie, we're doing smaller numbers as far as the students. What's really been an eye opener, which I could go back and find a way to change, is always okay with the students, but really, with 20 people in a CCW class or something like that, I didn't really get an opportunity to to understand where they were coming from. I think the easy way to say it is, I would have liked to have known why they were in that class, other than that superficial, well, I want to get a permit, or, my husband wants to get a permit and I have to come along because I want to get a permit too, or whatever those types of things were. I think being able to understand where they were eventually going with this would have been beneficial to them and to me. So if it was anything at all, I would like to go back and understand to getting into the classroom, because I didn't encounter them. I didn't really interact with too many people until they were actually showing up, at the designated time in the designated place. And then we went and did our thing. Afterward, some people would begin to take more training later on, but I really find people who are beginning to explore this, I find them really interesting. Or I understand the gun enthusiast person who's like me. I understand why they're there. I understand what they're doing with that. But that person who's not done it before, or doesn't have that background in it, or this is kind of a step in a different direction for them, I think that's fascinating. And I also think it's the key to how the industry is going to thrive, how trainers are going to be able to reach out, make themselves available, and design things that people are going to want to take.
Uh-oh. I think we lost Andy. Okay. Well, sorry. Oh well. So Clint,
Yes,
how would
sir.
you answer that question?
I think earlier on in my instruction career, which I haven't been teaching as long as most of you guys, I've liked to hear myself talk, and I would beat the dead horse. And I think that's part of the application of, or lack of application of efficiency in my courses. And I would oftentimes kind of take the attitude of, well, I've got all this stuff to cover, and doggone it, it's going to take as long as it takes. And I didn't appreciate my students' investment of their own time. So, if it was like 12 hours, 14 hours, I don't care. You have to be here so I can teach you everything that I'm required to teach you. But I think as I've become more efficient, it's allowed me to really appreciate that I was wasting a lot of people's time before because I was talking too much or beating the dead horse or what have you. So I guess that's something that I look back upon and kind of regret. But I've fixed it. I think I have. I'm trying to.
Michael, how about you?
Yeah, kind of going back to what Aaron kind of hit on originally. In my initial stages as instructor years ago, I felt time was of the essence. So I try to move a group as a whole through the curriculum throughout the day. And what I found was actually taking the time now and spending time, especially up front, investing that time with the students individually, working through some of their personal issues as far as their firearms handling skills, things of that nature, actually pays huge dividends as far as moving the class quicker and through more material throughout the middle to the end of the day. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Josh, wrap it up for us.
Yeah, I think whatever there's some good points that everyone's made throughout. We should always be evolving our training practices. We've all made mistakes in the past with our certain things that we've done with our training other people. I do more consulting now than I do really training, but that the problem even exists on that side. There's things, exercises, things that I've done in the past that were just not effective, and you learn from those and you fix them and move on.
Okay. All right. For myself, I'll answer this for once. I'm with Clint very much in that I spent a lot of time putting way too much information into class, far more information than people could absorb in any one time, and certainly more physical skills that they could really even start to master in that period of time. And over the last few years, what I've done is I've really taken a very minimalistic approach to things, cutting things down to what do I absolutely need to teach, not only in terms of keeping people safe, but also in terms of what's the minimum I need to teach for someone to get this skill. Well, what do I need to do? And the time that I save, I can put into more repetitions and things to really help them build that skill. So if I had a fault, it was putting way too much into my classes. The other thing that is probably unique to me is that I have a great deal of problem remembering people's names. And I can meet people. I've done all the mnemonic tricks. I know them all. People don't write in and tell me all these little tricks because I've tried every one of them. Trying to associate names with faces is very, very difficult for me. And so what I usually do is I usually take the Animal House approach and refer to them as Found or Pinto or something like that. And that works. The names that I give them I can remember, but I can't remember their own. And so that's something that I wish I did better. And believe me, as soon as I learn of a new idea, I try it out, and so far nothing has really stuck. So that's mine. And we're actually over time tonight. I want to thank everybody for coming out for this tonight. Both Aaron's, Barrett, Julie, Andy, Andy's back, Clint, Michael, and Joshua, and Rob. I very much appreciate everybody coming out tonight. And again, to everybody out there, no matter what it is, if you're celebrating Christmas, have a Merry Christmas. If you just finished celebrating Hanukkah, a belated Hag Sameach. If you're winter solstice kind of person, I don't know what it is, but happy winter solstice. And of course, happy Festivus. May your poles always shine bright. And we have coming up in 2018, starting in March, we've got the PDN Training Tour starting up again, where a lot of us will be there teaching courses on the training tour, and we'll have a schedule up. Rob, when are we going to have a schedule up for that?
Yes.
Okay. Soon. We will have a schedule up soon. So
actually, we have new instructors, we have new sponsors, we have new stops, and that all the new website stuff's being built, and it'll be out in January. It'll be out before SHOT Show.
Oh, before SHOT Show. Okay, and we got new sponsors. Oh, cool.
We'll have some interesting details announced before SHOT Show, and all of the instructors that are involved will be getting their email probably tomorrow, actually, with the contact that they need to send their dates and registration links to. Cool. So it is that time of year again.
It's that time of the year. So plan your spring out, folks, to get some good training in. And on that note, everybody have a good holiday. We will be back here with another episode of Training Talk on January the 4th, which is the first Thursday of January and the first Thursday of 2018. I hope you'll join us then. And until then, have a good holiday and a safe and happy new year. We'll see you next year, folks. Bye-bye.